Hey, church. We're in a series in the book of Esther. And if you're trying to find Esther, Esther is really easy to find. You kind of open up your Bible to the middle, and then the next book over is Job, and then one more to your left is Esther. Esther is satire. Now, satire is a comedy with an edge. It's full of irony and twists and turns and surprises. But the book, as we said last week, has no mention of God. But God providentially is in every scene. And you're going to see God's hand this week in chapter 2. We laid the groundwork last week about Esther. It's a heavy story, really, with some very dark elements. But the satire kind of lifts our spirit. You know, an example of satire would be the story of the emperor has no clothes. Now, in that story, what happens is some swindlers come to town and they convince the emperor that they can make for him these clothes that are so soft, you'll feel like you don't even have clothes on. But only the foolish people can't see them. If you're wise enough, you can see the clothes. So they pretend to be making the emperor some clothes, and finally they get them done, and the emperor puts them on, and they parade the emperor through the streets. And everybody sees how naked the emperor is, but nobody says anything until a child says, the emperor has no clothes. Well, that's satire, you see. It's comedy with an edge that sometimes we pretend things are not, and a child has the boldness and honesty to speak the truth. Well, chapter 2, we're going to come to this week, is a picture of a day in Persia. It's a dramatization of what it's like to be a Christian in our world. You know, Jesus spoke about this. He said, in this world, you're going to have tribulation. Peter said, don't be surprised by the fiery trials, as if something strange were happening. The wallpaper of the book of Esther in Persia is oppression. You have a very powerful king whose name is Xerxes. Remember Xerxes from last week? Ahasuerus. He sits on the throne. He's the richest, most powerful man in the world. He eats whatever he wants to eat. He wears whatever he wants to wear. He snaps his fingers, and his people, his goons, do things for him. And you have this powerless person whose name is Esther and Mordecai. Now, they've been taken captive, and they're living hundreds of miles from home, and now they're the third or fourth generation of immigrants to the land. So here's a little bit of the background. The story of Esther is the story of the Jewish people living in the land of Persia about 500 years before Christ was born. We're going to see this teaching about the favor of God upon Hadassah, Esther, as she's been chosen to be the queen of Persia. The story of Esther is told like a Jewish version of the Cinderella. Esther is a poor Jewish girl living in Persia. She's most likely about 14 years old. She doesn't have a mother or a father, both have died, but she is drop dead gorgeous. She is stunningly beautiful. And she gets taken to the palace against her will. She's in the Persia's Got Talent contest. She's Miss Persia and chosen to be queen. So this is going to be about the journey that she takes from being an orphan girl under the care of Mordecai to becoming queen. But the king, whose name is Xerxes, is anything but Prince Charming. His father was Darius the Great. He throws a big banquet, remember? The food is plentiful, the wine is flowing, and all of his military officials and nobles are there. They're invited to the banquet. He's putting on a display of the vast wealth of his kingdom, the glory of his majesty. People are drinking out of golden goblets, standing on marble floors, looking at marble pillars, sitting on these gold and silver couches. And Xerxes must be feeling so powerful this moment. But he has had way too much to drink. You could say that the king is well oiled. He snaps his finger, his goons come, they try to fetch Vashti the queen, tell her to come and parade before his friends. Well, the king is all liquored up and comes with a dumb idea. He's having his frat party. Guys, you've seen my gorgeous place, you've eaten my fine delicacies, you've drunk my wine, but I've saved the best for last. I'm going to parade in front of you my gorgeous wife. But Queen Vashti says no. It's likely she was pregnant with her son, Artaxerxes. Does Xerxes even know she's pregnant? Should she just waddle down the aisle? She tells the 7 goons, nope, I'm not doing it. And the king blows a gasket. He's furious. He's burning up with anger. Who dares say no to me? and Vashti is banished from the kingdom, which sets us up for chapter 2 this week. As the king's anger begins to subside, things begin to happen in the life of the kingdom and the life of Esther. So I want you to read Esther chapter 2 and see what happened when the anger of the king begins to subside and God providentially begins to work to pull Esther from being a little orphan girl to being the queen over all of Persia. Look forward to seeing you this week.